On the table today, I've got a customer engine, and this is Ron's engine. Ron, this is your engine. This is an absolutely beautiful Enya 46 4-cycle engine that just looks brand new, and basically that's what you told me. It looks like this is a Series 2 or the updated version, because that's where this crankcase nipple or vent is placed. I think I was crossed before when I was thinking that this was the first version, but I think the first version, the crankcase nipple was down here, and I think that's really the only way you can tell the difference. But anyway, so the story behind this engine is that Ron had this on the stand. He was running it, doing a break-in run, started leaning it out, and then all of a sudden it just detonated through the prop, made a strange, not a good sound, and now it has no compression. So what we're going to do here first is I am going to remove the rocker cover, and let's take a look and see what we've got going inside there. I think I've got, and the plug is installed. It's not tight, but it still doesn't feel like there's any compression. Let me tighten this plug down real quick. See if that changes the way anything feels. No, not really. Unfortunately. Okay, so we have good rocker arm movement. Let's do this. Let's take plug out. Get my piece of wood here. Find top dead center. Just feeling the valve lash, and this exhaust or intake, let me get the feeler gauges out, might be too tight. I'm not seeing any evidence of any damage yet. No, that's not too tight. So we have no compression, obviously, with the plug out, but the feeler gauges. So the valve lash is set fine. There's nothing wrong with the valve lash. That's unfortunate. Now that's going to end. I think, Ron, you said something about potentially having a valve hit the top of the piston. And let's definitely not hope for that. This is a beautiful engine. Start removing the head here and see. Let's just take the head off. Now, these new ground screws, wrenches are kind of hard to see. Oh, wow. Wow, that's tight. Okay, we're gonna have to resort to the the L wrenches, because those head screws are very, very tight. Okay, so here's the top, the piston. It's definitely got some lubrication in there. Looks like we're missing. I got that. I am not seeing any evidence of any damage whatsoever here. Everything looks fine and dandy here. Does look like it. If you look here, it looks like the exhaust valve contacted the piston right there. Which means we may not have good sealing here on this piston, which would be resulting in that. We're going to have to pull this, take this head off, or that valve out, and drop that valve and see if that valve is bent. I don't see any evidence that that valve is bent, but I also don't have any way to test the run out of that valve. Definitely does look like the valve touched the top of the piston there. I don't know. I don't know that there's any need in me disassembling this any further. I may just have to put it back together and see if... I'm not sure. I'm not sure why. I mean, to me, it looks like it's seating well. I'll have to see if there's any way I can test that with this on there, the head back on there. So I'm gonna it can be kind of challenging to put these little valve cotters back on, so I'm gonna turn the video off and put this valve and spring assembly back in here and see what I can do with this engine from here. Okay, I'm back now. So that is a rather interesting situation. When I initially was checking the valve lash seemed fine and it had no compression. So I took the head off, as you saw, looked at it. It looked like there had been contact with that exhaust valve, slight contact, and it made a mark in the piston head. So I took the exhaust valve out and I couldn't see any evidence of it being bent. So I turned the camera off, I put the valve springs and the valve cotters back in, and what I did this time was I loosened up these adjustment nuts completely so that there was no chance of them contacting the valves. And this Enya uses this little rubber deal here as the way to seal the intake manifold. Well, I just kind of shoved this rubber in this exhaust port like this, and then just use the intake manifold as a pressure test. So I was blowing in there and I couldn't feel any air going in there, and I was pushing each valve down, and then I'd hear a little hiss and all that. And then I did it on this side too, testing the intake side. And initially I thought I heard a little, or felt a little bit of exhaust leakage. So I just kind of, I didn't really do anything. I just rotated the engine over some more and said, well, there's really nothing more I can do for this. So I put the, put it on my vise and checked the valve lash, or reset the valve lash, and now I've got compression. And it feels pretty good. So, I don't know. All I can say is now it seems we've got compression. So I'm going to put this all back together and inform you, Ron, of what my findings are, and see if you want me just to hang on to this thing and run it, or if you want me just to send it back to you for just a simple diagnostic fee, or what. Because right now the valves are set good and it has compression. There's really nothing more I can do with this engine at this point other than either send it back or run it.